Understanding and accessing spiritual guidance. Let me preface this presentation by saying that what I have to share on this topic comes from my personal experience in working with guidance on my spiritual quest. It may or may not be your experience or fit for you. There are many long-standing traditions for accessing spiritual support. I'm not contradicting these or claiming expertise in these matters for everyone. I'm simply sharing from my life journey what may be useful to some others with a similar life path. My parents referred to my, quotes, invisible friends when I was a child. I still have invisible friends with whom I confer at least every morning and evening. They represent a great source of comfort, centering, and inspiration in every aspect of my life. This has turned out to be wonderfully fulfilling and rewarding for me. The first question most often asked about guides is, are they real? Aren't you just making them up? My response to this is not always satisfactory to people. I say, of course I'm making them up, just as I'm making up the story of my life, including who I think I am and what's real in my world. Now, this is not the whole story, but in a sense, I am more of a pragmatist than an idealist. I often said, if my cornflakes start talking to me in the morning, I'll listen as long as they have something useful to say. Many conclude at this point that I'm the flake and not my breakfast. That's okay if there is not a part of them that is not curious enough to find out how they may be as flaky as I am. Because I believe we all have made up our guides for life, whether we admit it or not. Everyone has someone they have admired and perhaps even aspired to be like at one time or another. These figures at one point have been important models, both for learning and growth. We have tried on their attitudes, beliefs, and maybe even behaviors for a while to see how they fit for our spirit. What fits, we tend to perpetuate, and what doesn't, we tend to discard. Whom we admired as a child may differ greatly from whom we admire now, or not. Some important figures seem to stay with many people for a lifetime. These figures in general have universal qualities that are both inclusive and specific to choices we make on a daily basis, such as honesty, integrity, compassion, wisdom. Many of the most popular are seen as spiritual figures, such as Christ, Buddha, Shiva. Some are seen as humans whose lives are inspirational, like Gandhi or Mother Teresa. Sometimes there's a person who has died, such as a grandmother, who still holds a special place in our heart and whose memory encourages us. There are even the spirit of animals or environmental entities like Mount Shasta that are inspirational to some people. What all these entities have in common is that their energy can be called on to remind us of qualities that are important to our current circumstances. In this itself is highly valuable, and it can be just on a regular basis or in a time of need. Others go further, however, and affirm they have a special relation with a certain guide and get communications or directions from them. Others relate mystical experiences from guides that have changed their lives. Sometimes these visits are seen as just inspirational, and sometimes there are directions given for their life. Here's where it can get tricky again. Are these directions real, coming from a higher awareness, or fabrications of our unconscious mind? From my perspective, the purpose of a guide is to help direct you to whatever serves your highest path of light and love. They are not the destination, but simply help point me in the right direction. I still have the responsibility to take the steps to get there and make sure their directions are working. If I want a guide to take me to the Grand Canyon, I don't want to be directed to Disneyland. I still am responsible to check to see if I'm progressing to the destination of my highest, even if my little ego gets scared. In other words, I do not give my power away to the guide, advocate all responsibility, and then feel ripped off when I don't end up with what serves my highest. Guides function to help me discern inner trust. They do not do it for me. It's my journey and my responsibility to grow in confidence and ability to tell the difference from a helpful hint and a bum steer along the way. Along my path, I've hired and fired many guides, not because they were phony, but because they were useful to get me to certain stops along the way, and I needed another guide to support me further. Now, I realize this approach seems to run counter to the school of thought that guides choose you or are appointed to you, and it's your job to be open and trusting enough to tune into them and take their advice. And indeed, you can look at it this way if it works for you. But I respectfully submit, who is it that's doing the choosing of or assigning to you? An entity that's operating on his or her own independently from Source? Beware if this is the case. I've often said that just because someone might not be living in a visible body does not make them any more wise than myself about what's right for me. Whether it's a psychic or a confirmed saint giving advice, it's still my responsibility to test in the crucible of my sacred heart whatever information is given to me as to its rightness in bringing me in alignment with my Source. Notice I did not say it's my small mind's or my ego's job, because neither of them has a clue about my best interest beyond their own fear-based agenda. They will just gravitate towards guidance that seems to confirm their agenda. True guides do not disempower me, but point me in the direction of my own connection to and oneness with Source. My little mind will never understand the paradox that I'm already one with Source and, at the same time, part of a collective seeking awareness of greater union. My heart can embrace both these truths and love the unique dance I do with them. Is how I'm using my guide helping me master this dance or adding to my confusion? The truth is, as I see it, in my oneness with Source, the greater me is creating the perfect guides for me and perhaps having them whisper loving guidance in my ear. In other words, the greater me is making it all up. Conversely, in my being part of the collective body of God, I do seek others to support my growing in greater vision and more light to help guide me through my blind spots. In both parts of life's equation, true guidance speaks to my heart in ways that support my highest self-realization. So yes, when I get guidance on the one hand, it is the greater me speaking to the little me in process. On the other hand, guidance does come through others who are synchronously in the dance of life with me. And it's my job not to step on their toes or let them step on mine, but to increase the elegance of our life dance and grow in mastery together. To make this more practical, I have two strategies with guides. The Yang pragmatic approach is that I consciously select the highest beings that speak to my heart and have them assist me daily in specific areas of my life. I use an ancient energy system as a template which corresponds to the nerve plexi in my nervous system and the diverse functions they serve in my body, mind, and spirit. Over the years, I've come to a team of 16 master guides with guidance or Source as the director of my guidance system. I have an even balance of male and female energetics, and I work with teams of them each day for inspiration, support, and insights. This works for me because they've proven to help keep me on course with living my purpose. The clue here is that there's chronic underemployment in the world of guides. You see, the way life is set up on Earth, because we have divine free will, no other entity can control us unless we let them in, be it what I see as a devil or an angel. The whole universe is rooting for you, but until you open your heart to benevolent support, it cannot give you its best. Now, the yin receptive approach to guidance is to let go and let God, as the aphorism goes. Surrender to the cosmic flow and do not presume to know all of the divine plan, but trust truth, simplicity, and love as your guides. This, too, is magnificent. In fact, another belief of mine is that we walk down the road of life with two legs, the yang and the yin, the male and the female, if you will. We're not very efficient if we're just hopping on one leg. We need a balance of both approaches to progress and dance most delightfully. So actively choosing guides and surrendering to the highest along your path are wonderfully complementary. I find using both most satisfying for balance and beauty. Here's a representation of my 16 guides with the light of guidance or source at the top. Now, if you are interested in balancing the yin and yang paths of guides and incorporating them into your daily life, such as I've done, I refer you to one of our School of Integrative Psychology courses online, Living Your Purpose, The Sevenfold Path to Health and Happiness, or Living with the Ascended Masters, which are all on the Transformations USA website. A fourth course, being a Teacher of Light, which also instructs in this method of accessing your guides, will be on the site soon. No matter what path you choose, however, understanding and accessing spiritual guides is your divine birthright, and perhaps the greatest gift you'll ever give yourself. May you listen to and follow the true voice of your highest guidance. In truth, simplicity, and love, this is Jim Morningstar.